Hello and welcome to the ToverTon podcast. I am your host, Abby Louise, and as per usual, I am joined by the lovely Connor Chadwick. Hello.
Hello, greetings.
How are you, my dear?
I am well. I am well. Are you well?
I am well. I'm a little bit tired, but that's just because I'm lazy.
I've just been flooded with work in the last week or so, so I've just been a bit,
Oh, overworked.
yeah, just a tad, just a tad. But we get there in the end, and here I am now enjoying
Powering through.
some nice podcast moments without work.
This is your break. Your break from work is working.
Yeah, but this is good work.
This is fun work. We like this work. So, this month on the podcast, we have a lovely guest with us by the name of Jimi Wolfe.
Hello.
Hello.
I went a bit Leslie Phillips there.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
How are you, my dear?
I'm very good. I think I can very much Connor, I would say, is mood. It's been a long week at work. It's been a tiring week at work. But this is good work. It's lovely to be doing a podcast. I always enjoy doing a podcast. And it's a nice chilled out Thursday afternoon after work.
Yes.
Afternoon. It's 9 o'clock in the
evening.
evening.
It's been a long day. I've lost track of time.
Time has been and warped.
Yes, it's wibbly wobbly.
Yeah.
So, in regards to TT, you're still kind of like a newbie, really.
I am. I mean, it's been 6 months now. It feels like it's been about 6 months. Was it less than that?
No, I think it's a little bit more. I think it's just under a year. I think it's
Blimey.
more like 9 or 10 months. All I'm thinking is because you were in R101.
R101, I think, was the first thing I did.
Yeah,
Wasn't
that
that
came
November?
out.
November
That came out October because it came out for the anniversary.
Yes, it did. Yeah. So
that was October 2022.
Yeah.
So
God, that really was. That was quite a while.
It's probably coming up to a year now, but still, compared to some of the other TTers, you're relatively sparkling and shiny and clean.
Yes, because I've done, I said, there's R101 and then various other bits and pieces of. I've sort of, I mean this in a nice way because I enjoy doing it. I've become a sort of bit character for many things, usually a villain, but I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of fun, and I often like because the amount of times I listen to things and I'm listening to something thinking, oh, there's a new TT, I should catch up with this, and I'm listening to it and I was like, that was me.
I just remembered what your first TT role was.
Yes.
It was Tusks of London 1, which literally came out a year ago today.
I was Inspector Kane.
Yeah.
No, I was a knight.
Yeah, you were a knight in that one.
Yeah.
Because Joshua Griggs was like, do you reckon we could get Jimi Wolfe on? And I was like, who the hell is that? He was like, oh, he's this YouTuber, and I was like, oh, okay. And I messaged you, and you were like, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
and then how did you get Jimi Wolfe? And I was like, I asked him.
That's the thing. I don't know whether I've got this reputation as being unapproachable. I think I could certainly seem like a bit of a knob at times, so that's just me, if I'm allowed to say that of myself. But no, I feel like it's the kind of thing is like if people ask me to do things, and then half the time people are surprised. It's like you just ask. I'm happy to do it. If I've got the time, I'm happy to do it.
So yeah, you're just about a year then you've been involved with TT.
Oh,
which is great.
It feels in a good way. It feels longer than that, but I mean it feels like it's getting to know everyone in such a short space of time. I mean just going to the getaway, it is like discovering a whole new family, and it's so much fun working with everyone.
I think because of like the stuff that we do all have to gel really quick.
Yes, definitely.
Like because I feel like I've known Connor and Chelsea for years. They're younger than me, but I just presume I've known them my whole life, which is physically impossible.
Well, I am like remember the mental age test we took.
Don't even start.
I am 52.
Yeah, but then I'm like 17, 18, so I don't know what that's.
And then it's worth saying as well that again, you and me, Abby, being of the same generation, it's like half the time we see something, we're both like, mood, we get it. It's it's literally
we are,
the amount of times when we're discussing something, it's like,
people.
Yeah, we get that.
The token old people in TT. So, I'm trying to think of what other roles you've had.
Well,
So
I
R101.
was going to say as well, the first role that I ever cast Jimmy in for Overton Audios was sadly during a very grumpy period of time for me. I don't know if you remember that. You were playing Matt Vowles in that Torchwood
Yes, I
in
do remember
Professional
that.
Containment, and it would taken so long to get everyone's lines because it's Sutton's Torchwood. It takes ages to get done. And I was there going, please record. And you'd obviously gotten busy and I didn't really know them. So I was like, where are the lines? And you're like, sorry, I forgot. And I was like, please.
No, that's fine. I will say that. I will say that publicly on a podcast. If you ask me to send in lines, just keep reminding me, because it's not that I'm not doing them. It's just between work and everything else. I'm one of those people I forget. If it's scheduled to record on like a Zoom or a Zen like we do, it's like I've got it in my head. It's a schedule. It's there. I've got it in my calendar. Whereas half the time it's like I'll put a note in my calendar saying, make sure you record the lines for so and so. And I'll think, oh yes, I must do that tomorrow. And then I turn the alarm off and forget.
I will say this though. I will say this, Joe. Jimmy's one of these people. I'll be like, oh, you know, we spoke about it the other day, and he'd be like, yes.
Yeah, I do have the memory of a goldfish. I say, yes, I remember this conversation. Yes, completely,
totally. Yes,
it's like, you're in this, am I? Oh yeah.
Yeah, Tusks of London 1
Tusks
and 2.
of London. R101 was, I think, sort of
Corporal Jones.
Yes. Don't know where that voice came from. Yeah.
Try to think of what else. You tend to have been the person who ended up playing man a lot.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm lots of various man in background or
you got there
various...
with Ian. You two is just hello, playing man.
Very much background characters. Obviously, I've done a few villains, which I always enjoy doing. I always enjoy playing a good villain. It's always fun to do. And then obviously I think it was at that point then I was going to say my leading role, but let's be honest, it's the leading role that I didn't know that I was leading in was with The Touched, which is, yeah.
I would never get over that. So you play Clarence in The Touched.
Yes.
But I remember when I first started promoting it, I was like, starring Jimi Wolfe and Kath Mill, and both of you were like, are we the leads? And I was like, yes.
Speaking of which, The Touched 3 just came out.
It did. Please go listen to it.
Go play the trailer.
Yes.
What exactly do we do if we find Magpie?
I'm gonna beat the shit out of
Oliver!
Sorry. On the wheel?
Don't worry, you're not the only one. I want to give him a piece of my mind. But first, we need to find him.
It would be a good idea for us to split up and cover more ground.
What you said to Oliver. What you promised him.
We will find a way. We have to.
Guessing he has a gift. No. It's completely normal for a Wayne to be floating around on the ceiling, either.
Can I help you?
Oh, yes, we were wondering if you've seen any strange-looking individuals lurking around, but, you seem to have your arms full already.
I say, fire! The fire at the British Museum! It was one of those gifted. They set fire to the museum!
The tower!
You.
Me?
Oh, they really are in trouble. He used your last name.
Shut it, Miss Murphy.
Oh, you weak gobshite.
That was a very good trailer. Well done, us.
Yep. Just about to speak. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. As you heard, Abatha is still here. As is Jimi Wolfe. Hello, Jimmy.
Hello.
So yes, The Touched.
Touched.
As Abatha said, very, very good trailer. And that was for the third one that came out, I think, as of recording. It came out yesterday, didn't it?
I believe so, yes.
I got a chance to listen to it whilst I've been working today, and I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a nice sort of, because it has a nice vibe. The third one, even though, because from what I recall, this is actually oddly, the first question's for Abi. Didn't you write all 4 episodes back to back?
Me and Chelsea sat down and wrote 1 to 4 in a week.
Well, that's the thing, because I listened to 3 and it feels like there's been a natural kind of break, even though it happens immediately after. When you listen to the 3rd one, it's the aftermath of the big thing. So, you know what I mean? It adds that kind of like vibe of time passing, because you're dealing with characters who are having their own problems, like, I suppose, certainly grief. And it also has a nice kind of reintroduction to some people's powers as well. Like, you have the previously from the previous episode, etc., etc., and then obviously you have the little bits with Oliver. But no, I thought it was very good. You should go and check that out, everyone. Now, so Jimmy, you didn't think you were the lead character?
No. So I remember getting so for those who don't know, I should say as well. So The Touched is based on the HBO series called The Nevers. Some of you may have heard of it. If you enjoyed it, definitely go and listen to The Touched. Those who are not familiar, it's essentially to try and keep a relatively spoiler-free version. It's set in Victorian London, and a spaceship causes sort of these spores to descend, and the people that get touched by the spores, hence The Touched, end up developing sort of, we're inclined to say superpowers, but it's more sort of just they develop abnormalities, because it's not necessarily just powers. There's people who sort of have things that could be perceived to be powers, but are generally sort of changes them. I mean, you know, you have some people who have the ability to see energy, other ones who are sort of kind of indestructible, some people who have healing powers, but then you've got other ones who can touch anything they touch will break or like turn to ice, or you get other people who basically just they kind of look more like monsters because it's changed the way they look. And it's there's a huge variety of it. I would highly recommend going and checking out the series. But
I will say this though, the way yes, it is based in that universe, but I have said this before, with The Touch, we've tried to write it so that even if you haven't seen the show, you can still listen to the audio.
Yes, I think it's a good thing to say. It's if you like The Touched, go watch The Nevers. If you like The Nevers, go and listen to The Touch. Yeah, you can go for either one. But yeah, when I got the scripts, it was very much one of those things, because I think, if memory serves, I started doing The Touch before I'd seen The Nevers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kept meaning to go and check out The Nevers. And then, funnily enough, Catherine, my other half, ended up having it downloaded, and we watched the whole thing all the way through. This was after I'd started doing The Touch. But when I got sort of the first script of The Touched, it was a case of I'm playing a guy who does force fields and things like that. And I just assumed that I was just one of the many characters. It was kind of going to be... I in my head, before I knew what it was, I had a very much sort of a Torchwoody type of thing. It's a whole team of people. None of them are particularly the main character, which is, I would say, is still very much the case. But it was then when I was reading through the script, I was like, oh, so I am actually playing someone who's kind of the team leader, as it were.
You are the Jack Hawk,
yes,
sadly. Yeah.
It was very much a surprise. So it was one of those things, like I said, and it was very much my sort of first lead thing I'd done for TT. But it's a lot of fun. Clarence is a brilliant character to play, because he's very different. First of all, he's very different to any other characters I've played. Secondly, it was nice to have at least one character that I've just decided to do with my own voice, because it was just everything else that I played up into TT at that point was sort of trying to do something with a slightly different inflection, and it came to sort of doing Clarence, and I was like, I'm just going to play it as just me speaking, because you kind of got the impression that, you know, we've got lots of different people doing different voices of different characters and things like that, and they're all very well performed. But it's kind of like Clarence is an interesting character because we sort of started to flesh out his backstory a little bit more in places, and I sort of didn't want to fix him down to a voice that tied him to a...
I will say this though, I generally think it's only you and maybe Louise who actually use their actual voices for The Touched. Everybody else has put some form of an accent on.
That is true. Never occurred to me, but yeah, that is a very good point.
I will say this though, so touched wise, there's one more episode left of the first series, which is Nest of the Magpie. So that's going to be out in December, and then we have season 2, episodes 1 and 2 have already been written, so they'll be out beginning of next year.
Oh, very good.
Yes,
because I've kind of watched it from a mixture of the background, and also I've played a couple of cameo roles like Posh Man. And the very beginning of the first episode, I was like, I'd like a special lady, please. And I also then played a racist. And that was fun. I felt very awkward doing that, but all the other people we got involved, they were like, oh,
it was so funny. We needed people in a crowd to be like shouting at the touch and being like, "Oh, you're freaks" and all this stuff. But... We also put Puss in there, didn't we?
Yes,
Bagpuss was in there.
We for those who might not be privy, Bagpuss is also he went from a Dickensian episode into a into the touched. He's a multi.
You know how we have Chelsea whenever she does edits. So she edited episode 3, FYI. She puts hidden honks, and I feel like we've started putting hidden bagpusses into random scenarios.
Well, yeah, because the bagpuss was in Modus Operandi. There's a scene where an airlock gets snapped open and people go out, and you hear, "Oh my!" As he goes, or like as they're running away before it opens, you hear, "Oh, this is difficult. There was a sign over there," and all this sort of stuff. But no, in this one, was it like I do a couple of voices going, "Get out of here, you scum," and all this sort of stuff, and then I just go, "Oh, this is very difficult. You are disgusting."
Of course, we left that in.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. This is
why you need to listen. You need to listen to the background of a lot of these things, because there are bagpusses and stickers. The random sticker just appearing. Like
I have to fight for Bagpuss's rights because he almost didn't make it into Modus Operandi. Because Chelsea edited that as well, and she cut him out. And I was like, everyone's like, you bloody put Bagpuss back in. Bagpuss erasure. She was like, oh my god, oh no.
It's fair. I think that's a truth of a lot of the TT stuff is it's always worth listening to a second time, just purely because you need to listen to the background for a lot of stuff.
Especially as we do
so much
live,
stuff.
And a lot of the background chatter is actually us.
What happened?
And literally we'll be like, right, so we'll do the tracks bubble if you do talking on top of talking. So we'll be like, right, we'll record the actual scene. And then when that scene's done, we'll get the people who are in the back of shot in the scene to have a conversation. So the conversation is in the back of shot. But you need to listen to it the first time round, listen to the main voices, and listen to it again, listen to the background action, because a lot of the time there is some proper good one-liners in the back of shot, because it's all just improvised.
I was
especially in the touched.
I will say as well, Clarence is a fantastic character to improv with, because half the time there's half the time I'll see something in the script and it's meant to be just sort of his bit, sort of, the line will be written like, well, I think that, and I'll see that and I go, right, okay, so Clarence, that would be, well, you see, it's a sort of and you just roll with it, and it gets to the point where half the time I'm thinking, how long can I keep this going before somebody interrupts me?
But on a polar opposite, character-wise, going from bumbling Clarence, agency, play the trailer.
Regeneration currently in progress, Bob. There seems to be some discomfort.
That is to be expected when specific results are needed.
Standard regeneration protocols apply. Establish identity via controlled questions.
Do you know where you are?
Not afraid.
Do you know why you are here?
Released from Sharda on condition of regeneration to work with the CIA.
Do you know who you are?
Inmate designation TT Wolfe 4-2. But personally, I've always preferred to be called the Doctor.
So, agency, yay!
Woohoo! And you said, that, going from Clarence bumbling character to Agency. Let's be honest, Agency's quite bumbling in his own way. And the thing that...
but Agency is just one of these. He's not a bumbler. He's just, if you could add more words to a sentence, he would.
Yes, because I was literally going to say the thing with the bumbling is, again, just going back to the whole ad-libbing thing. If you haven't listened to episode 1, please go and listen to it. Obviously, you listen to all the episodes. But I think it's fair to say Agency's little monologue at the end of episode 1 is about 90% improv, because I wrote the bit at the end of the script, and then I went on this whole thing about Marilyn Monroe and eating burgers and sauces and dresses, and it was like, none of that was in the script. I was just waiting for somebody to stop me, and you let me go on for so long. You made me go on for so long.
I was on the record button and I just let it go on and on.
We did not to give away too many spoilers, but we recently recorded Hiding the Prize.
Hiding the Prize, yeah.
We did a similar thing, didn't we? There,
a photocopier without giving anything away. But yes, the photocopier. I like to do that with you, Jimmy. I think Jimmy needs to learn to not write scenes like that, because I just let it run.
But that's the thing, is I write those scenes, and then half the time it's like I write them knowing I'm going to do that, but at the same time it's like as I'm writing it, thinking, oh, this is going to be funny, I'll have a bit of improv, and then as I'm reading it, thinking nobody's going to stop me here, I'm just going to keep going on and on and on.
Oh no, Abby's on the record button. This is never going to end.
But yes, so yeah, agency-wise, yeah, he's, again, a brilliant character to play, because obviously it's the Doctor, And again, it's one of the other characters, I think the only other character other than Clarence I play, where I basically play as myself, my own voice. He's a really good character to play, because I sort of wanted him to be... he's sort of a mix of various Doctors, because I think it's very easy... I think everybody, whenever they do any kind of fan Doctor, everyone has their sort of main inspirations.
Yeah,
very much so.
Dickensian's 13 and 2.
Yes, and I was going to say, is a very much sort of like there's definitely elements of War 2 and 10. I think 10 in his sort of flippant way of speaking, War in his appearance and sort of a slightly darker side, and then 2 is very much his setting. Which obviously I should say, for those who haven't listened to Agency, is basically he has been recruited by the Celestial Intervention Agency to undertake occasional missions for them. So it's a reinvention of the kind of season 6B thing, but obviously long after that's happened. But yeah, I kind of wanted to do that because I thought it's good to have a sort of something. I wanted the feel of the classic series, where you had the Doctor interacting with Gallifrey, but at the same time, I also wanted him to go off and do his own thing. And so I sort of have those moments in between where he's, off on his own thing, and then he gets called in and reluctantly has to help. And then obviously also he's got his companion Traxia, played by the wonderful Kath Meal. Yes, very much. Well, that was the weird thing, is it was partly working on Kath with through the touch that put me in mind to have her for the companion role, because it was just, as soon as we were doing Clarence and Emma, it was just a case of we just bounced off each other really well. Yeah. And I was like, she's going to be such a good companion. And she, again, to her credit, she plays it so well, because the moments when I write it where she's interrupting the Doctor because he's getting carried away, it's one of those moments again where I can go on a little monologue or start to, and then she'll interrupt, and it's very natural for the two of them together. And it just works so well.
She's almost like, in a way, she's, at least looking at it from a viewer's point of view, and obviously I was in the second episode as well. She's very much the person who's just trying to keep the story on track.
Yes, very much.
The Doctor's the kind of person who's just sort of like, oh, let's look over here. What's going on over there? And she's like,
very much. Yes.
Come on. Especially, I mean, obviously, I know there's a bit where at the end of episode 2, they've been called for one of those missions. So we'll be able to see, would this be their first?
Yes.
So it'd be interesting
to see that
together. It'd be interesting to see that dynamic as to whether the Doctor's just kind of flippant about it or not going, well, I don't like being controlled. because that's what was always interesting, certainly about looking at the season 6B stuff. And obviously, I know that they've kind of explored a little bit of that with the second Doctor on Big Finish. He's very reluctant, and they've seemed to put in that story, they put a bit of a conspiracy on Gallifrey around the whole thing. It'd be interesting to see what's kind of done with regards to agency here, into how, because it does feel very classic. Like the Gallifrey that's portrayed in agency, I'm like, yeah, this is the same Gallifrey that 2 interacted with. They're still mysterious.
Yeah.
They're working in the shadows. That you're not seeing the high councils and the presidencies. You're seeing core groups and shadow groups.
Well, if you look on the cover of one of the first episode, the Time Lord that agency interacts with is wearing the Time Lord robes.
Yes, the coordinator.
Yeah.
I contemplated. I will say, I did contemplate putting the coordinator in the robes from the 3 Doctors, the sort of slightly sort of silvery blue. But I really wanted it to have that more classic feel, and I just think that, you know, it's kind of it doesn't just necessarily have the classic feel, but even going back to, you look at the Big Finish, when you look at some of the stuff with Narvin, they've put him in the classic robes, and I really wanted it to be more sort of down to earth, pun not intended, of just having it just very sort of really simple premise, simple ideas. And then, like I said, with Traxia in there, you've got, like I said, she's there to sort of keep the story on track, but it's a good thing as well, because obviously the whole point of her is she's been assigned, she's basically his parole officer. She's there to look after him. So she's there to make sure he stays on track. But then gradually, I think you saw bits of it in the second episode. You'd see a little bit more of it in the third episode, and definitely more going into season 2, is in the story, they're sort of, because of their relationship as prisoner and parole officer, is they are linked in the sort of symbiotic nuclei way. Some sciencey thing I wrote into the script that I can't remember now. But basically, so they're linked. So I like the idea that you've got, you know, the Doctor's being the Doctor, Trax is sort of looking after him, but you sort of do start to see her soften slightly.
It's called a biometric link.
That's it.
I know my law here.
That's
I know about the biometric. I know about the biometric link between Time Lord and ship.
Yeah.
So
it was just to give the sort of impression that they are sort of linked. And again, she sort of becomes softer, because I think there's definitely a line. There's a bit in episode 2 when they're just having a conversation, and she sort of starts to talk about her doubts of how the CIA, Celestial Intervention Agency, operate, and the sort of the way that Gallifrey doesn't necessarily have a grey area. And again, it feels like something that, again, you would have the Doctor be on that very much side of things, because it's kind of like he's very much working for the establishment, but very reluctantly.
Yeah. So, Agency Doctor, we have one more episode for this season, and then we have many more seasons in the planning. So yes, 3 episodes per season. He likes in small
trilogies.
Yes. We like a trilogy. So we were going to talk about fan doctors, but mine's kind of gone. Mine's done and dusted. She's not
we can
around
talk about
anymore.
it as a completed.
I will say this though, and without giving too much away, I have had to play Dickensian the past couple of weeks. So she might be gone, but she won't be gone forever.
Is it a secret?
Well, not really. It is now.
I was going to say,
you thought she was gone, but she's not. But she
I could have sworn a poster got released.
Yes. But yeah, so I will say, because obviously Dickensian was my Doctor Who focus, but Metal has stepped into the place of Dickensian. She has the same day and everything. She has my Mondays. But yes, episode 2 of Metal will be out for us next week for us, 25th. So look forward to that. Meta will be getting another companion joining her team. Currently it's just herself and a chap named Biscuit. Yes, Biscuit.
What brand?
any brand the doctor decides to call them. Literally, we had a list of biscuits and cookies given to Chelsea, and she just goes through this list. She calls him hobnob. She calls him custard cream.
I will quickly say, can't call them Jaffa cake. It's not a biscuit.
No, she doesn't.
That's true.
She calls him a wagon wheel at some point.
That's dangerous territory.
I don't know. Not my script. Like,
it's not a biscuit. It's not a biscuit. It's got a filling inside.
I was going to say, because at that point you're starting to call a Tunnock's tea cake. How have we gotten down this?
No, either way. He's called Biscuit, and Metal is heading into the 1700s and picking up another companion. But the thing that's fun with Metal, and this was established in episode 1, she's not where she should be. She's in a completely different universe, a completely different reality. Things aren't as she remembers, and she's only gonna find more things that are wrong within this universe as the series goes on. So
I should just say as well, going back to what we were saying earlier about my memory, I've just realised I'm in this one as well, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
You're a
baddie.
Literally only
You're a
just
baddie
remember.
in this one. You're a baddie in this one. Yes.
But yes, it's very, very good. I'm looking forward to hearing the finished thing.
It was a fun one to work.
Oh, it was so good.
So, Overton wise.
Hello.
I believe you have just had a new doctor.
We not want to talk about Cravat.
Oh yes, Cravat.
Oh.
So,
I'm old
Overton.
news now. I'm old news.
So, Overton, Cravat. Well, saying that, because it was in both of our vlogs. So, yeah, Cravat. We've been doing stuff with Cravat.
Um.
I'll say Cravat.
Okay. Well. I'm not even playing this up. I have no idea what you're on about. But I assume you're meaning about the Cardiff minisodes.
Yes.
We filmed some minisodes in Cardiff beginning of the year. We went on this big Cardiff trip.
That's what I was trying to say, was the fact that you'd done the filming. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, shut up.
But yeah, so we went and filmed some minisodes in Cardiff at the beginning of the year. They only came out really about 2 weeks ago. And yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that. It was -5 when we were filming it at the time. So I was in my doctor's costume. I wasn't wearing the cravat because that can restrict airway. And I was like very cold.
The cravat doctor with no cravat?
Well, there are photos out there.
Are you not just the doctor?
The cravatless doctor.
Cravatless doctor.
There you go. And,
his evil twin, his Valiant.
I am the cravatless doctor. No, doctor.
Oh, you seem to be wearing a black cravat. You're evil.
Julia Bresson's like, doctor, where's your cravat?
Yeah, but no, like we are working on actually getting towards the end of that doctor now.
Yes.
I think now that the 60th, our Overton Audio's Prism 60th is now finished and edited. It's just having the music added to it, and it's got one last cover on that he's making. Then it will be done. After that, now in terms of Cravat, there's only 4 volumes left, and then I'm done.
Going into Kensian on the other side of the void.
Yes, indeed. I don't know what you just. I mean, I heard somebody recently said that Cravat has a little bit of 5 in his personality.
I'd say 5 and 1.
No, I can see that.
A lot of people initially said a bit of 6 because he can be a bit flippant sometimes. He can sometimes, especially in emergencies, lose that emotional side and be kind of like. And I can see 6 a lot more now, having listened back to the recent volume that came out with Cravat called Doctor Ascension. There's a lot more sort of, the kind of like harsher 6 in there. There's less of the warm 6. I've always aimed to try and be a little bit like a young Hartnell, but a lot of people sort of describe 6 sometimes as a young Hartnell because Colin really honed into
No,
the
yeah,
first Doctor with his
see
sort
that.
of performance. So a lot of people said I've like, even though I've tried to aim for a young heart, more people tend to tell me that I'm somewhere between like 1, 6, and 5.
Yeah, I can see that definitely.
But
Di's my favourite, so there you go.
Yay!
I think we'd all.
the first Doctor was your favourite.
I didn't say 1. I said 5.
I think we'd all be surprised if Cravat didn't have elements of 1 in there. To be fair,
yeah, this is true.
Oh, in the latest volume, I was holding my lapels, and I was like,
"Good, good."
Yes. Indeed, but yeah, and then we announced a new Doctor.
Yes,
with the Cardiff minisodes that we shot, we introduced a new Doctor. The minisodes when we shot them starred myself as the Cravat Doctor, James Sutton as Captain Fraser Ward, George Guidra comes back as the Blonde Doctor, and we kind of, to give some closure for George's Doctor as well, we gave him the regeneration to this new Doctor called the Alacrity Doctor, who's played by Matthew Tyrrell, who played Dickensian's companion, Logan.
Logan, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all like, variants and all that sort of stuff. But like, we recorded actually a little something originally for the Overton Audios podcast, talking about that process. So let's go to that segment now.
Yes.
To all the people that I have been, will be, and could be, that someday you'll find me worthy to be the Doctor.
Oh, good. The eyes are working again. Wonderful.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast. And I am here with Matthew Tyrrell. Hello, Matt.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing nice time actually. I'm here in person, which is bizarre and unexpected.
Yes, it's all part of that big meetup. If those of you who maybe listened to the last podcast, myself and Eamon were sat together in person. We're coming towards the end of that big gathering now, and we finished the Cardiff minisodes, as we call them.
After so long.
Yes,
we're finally here.
Obviously, we call them more. People are going to know them more as the Prism 60th minisodes. But they're now finally out. We shot them on
the last weekend of January.
Yeah, I want to say 28th.
Yeah, it was around the 28th. Yeah.
28th, 29th of January of 2023.
Yeah.
And obviously, within that, it stars myself as the Cravat Doctor, James Sutton as Captain Fraser Ward, George Guidra as the Blonde Doctor, and it introduces the incarnation after George Guidra, which is yourself.
Me.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, what was it now? So we're recording this on the 20th of August.
Yes, we are. We've taken the opportunity while we have it.
So yes, exactly. And well, you just before we stopped recording, you said the date that I actually asked you.
October 2020. It was the 9th, I believe it was, when we did it.
So that's about 10 months.
Yeah, 10 months, and we planned the Cardiff trip pretty not long after that, like lots of days after.
Well, I know that I wanted to try and do some sort of trip. I know I kind of wanted to go to Cardiff again, because I hadn't been since I was 13. And I'd spoken to George about it at the time, and he said it'd be a nice idea. And obviously, we had in the back of our minds everything that happened after the DW 2012 split. There were now gaps in the timeline that could be filled. I was aware that things were being done on the DW 2012 side, where things were going to be reshuffled to make things work without us. Obviously I'll be removed from content, etc. like that stuff's kind of obvious. I don't need to kind of ask anyone about that. But
it's a matter of just what's best for everyone, every party going forward. This pathway is like it's provided a good if I want to say like a ramp off for both Prism Overton Audio side and the DW 2012 side, they both provided a very smooth exit for both parties.
Exactly, yeah. And then because this was an issue we had, in Fractured Timeline, the Dalek attack on London is something where it's very much pivoting on the Maggie May, companion to the Irish Doctor, her story where her brother died in the Dalek attack, and the episode came out recently, Dimension of the Daleks, which actually shows it. But obviously from a continuity point of view, that's a Luke Newman Little Red Doctor story from DW 2012. So we realised that we had a gap that we had to try and fill.
You'll be missing a lot of context behind it, and I was like, it'll be a bit disconcerting because, like, obviously those particular videos where from DW 2012 are now lost to time, and
they're being remastered at some point too. So it meant that continuity might shift, and we were having our worries. Well, this is when we were part of DW 2012, by the way. But this gives us the opportunity to have to form our own continuity. And
the one that's like very streamlined and is able to like not have any sort of deviations from like a miscommunication, for example, about this particular event.
Obviously, for those who may not know, with the split, there were lots of miscommunications with continuity, which meant some of our things didn't work, and then with us, some of Luke's stuff didn't work, and it ended up being confusing. So that's why we ended up ultimately deciding to split, and therefore we can concentrate on our own continuities. But that's something that because we went through discussions about about what the Doctor meant to you. So I might as well ask you, what does the Doctor mean to you? What's your idea of the Doctor?
The way I see the Doctor is the Doctor is a character who is someone who should bring hope to every people, to everyone. Pardon that. Because there was this quote from it was said by George Lucas from an interview when they were doing when the last series of the Clone Wars came out. They did like a interview where they reflected back on it. And a quote was said from George Lucas saying, "Children are going to be watching what we make, so whatever you do, you've got to make these stories hopeful, regardless." And I think that really much applies to Doctor Who, because at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want with a Doctor Who story. You can have it lighthearted, you can have it dark, you can have anything, but like a key core element that needs to remain, in my view, you've got to make sure this is hopeful, because there's going to be someone who are out there, whether they're a child, a young adult, an adult, someone who's much, much older. They're going to need that, because trust me, I know, other people know, you people watching probably know it in some way. Like, you need to find hope somewhere, and I think that's is a very core principle of what makes the Doctor the Doctor, and in my view, it's probably the most important one. Because you could have the Doctor is a brilliant character. You can have all of these different personality traits, different Doctors. But you need to make sure you have the core foundations of the character, and being the character that brings hope, especially, is something I see as like just absolutely necessary.
Yeah, because we could obviously as well. The title of what your doctor title has been obviously announced in the Minnesota as the Alacrity Doctor.
Yeah,
it took a while to find that name, because we were going for first, wasn't it the Joyful Doctor or the Cheery Doctor or something like that?
Yeah, well, when we actually sat down and Connor very kindly asked me to join Prism as the Doctor, I wasn't really sure what to do really, because something that I think is really important is making sure you're not following a trend. Because if you're more unique, it's going to be more memorable. And something that I think, of course, is very important is make sure the content is memorable to have people want to connect. And if you are someone who's more involved, it's going to be more impactful to an audience member. So I was taking I had a really long think about this. When I took a thought about all of the current Doctors in the Prism time at the time, and I feel like there was I don't want to say like it was a weakness, but there was I feel like there's a trend of I don't want to say sad Doctors, but like the ones that we show like a lot of them that have suffered and not had the best of lives.
Yeah.
obviously we see it a lot in the Blonde Doctor, who struggles a lot with their mentality and how they're feeling.
Yeah, George certainly wanted there to be a much more focus on the mental health element.
Exactly.
And the Blonde Doctor has losses that really affect him more so than any of the doctors in Prism. I know that obviously he's doing the same thing currently at the moment with another version of the Blonde Doctor on Dwemer and What Fourth Wall. He's doing a very similar vibe. Obviously, we're trying to make them as distinct as possible. I think we've talked about that before. But
they've got their own unique style, and that's certainly working out very well for them. So that was my thought going into this way of thinking. So, and I also thinking about fan content as a whole as well. And when I talk to when I have talked to other fan creators or listened to fan audios or people talk about their fan audios, a lot of them are just it's like a trend of people like doing like dark, nitty gritty and nasty like doctors that have weird moles, and I'm like, okay, that's not a bad thing. Let me be very, very clear. But like, it made me want to feel like we need to like focus on the core values and do something that is relatively unique, because from what I've seen, there's not many doctors that are more like in a positive mindset, if that's what I say. Like when we was thinking out the names for the Doctor stuff, like we really didn't have a I didn't have a Scooby what we wanted to do.
We came up with keywords of description and themes. And tried to build off of
we wanted to avoid like things like colour as well. Yeah, we wanted to avoid that. But at the same time, I didn't really want to focus on a piece of clothing because I didn't have a clue what I wanted for the costume. The costumes changed multiple times. Yeah, and like so we wanted to focus on what I wanted. So I think a core value was trying to make sure we have that like core pillar of having the Doctor be a hopeful character. That is like. The way I'm seeing it is not like Alacrity, like it means it's like a more of a positive, like happy sort of emotion, if that's the right word. So it's not like there's no care in the world of anything. Like it's like, let's say, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's the right description, but people like doctors like the 11th Doctor, it's not like that kind of joy and happiness. It's more of like being in more a grounded sense of optimism, and optimistic was one of our like working titles for the Doctor when we was thinking about it. We hadn't really set down what we wanted. Yeah, we went through multiple changes, and I have to send a big thanks to my very best friend Gabs, who really helped me refine down what I wanted from this character, and helping me with like the Doctor's name and some of the personality, and even helping me with my costume as well. And I want to take a big thanks to Gabs for that. So, as you mentioned.
I also remember a time, specifically the 8th of November last year, I was stood at a train station coming back from a site I was on, and I think I'd found the theme tune, and I sent it to you. And then because we think we'd found the name, I sent you like a little random quote that could have been said in the volume, where the Doctor earns that title, if you know what I mean. I think it was something random, like the I don't know if you remember it, like the creature saying, "You Doctor going through this universe with your alacrity in tow." Well, it was obviously I don't know. Obviously, that was just a random like riff to how it could fit in and how they're going. Oh, he said it. You know,
it's like a bit like Leonardo DiCaprio. We're like, there it is. That was.
It's like the way that Cravat talks about his cravat, and he's called the Cravat Doctor.
A cravat, very brave.
Or like for example, Blonde. Obviously, these stories were once part of the short trips with DW 2012, and have now become part of the What Fourth Wall lineup. But it's like the Blonde Doctor with haircuts.
Yeah.
Irish Doctor has the Irish heritage in there.
Yeah.
They've all got key things that earn them that title and why they're called that. With Alacrity, he's obviously joyful, but if you have him be criticised for it and then him be proud of it, I thought that would be good for something to do. You know what I mean? And that's something I'm not going to get into too many spoilers about.
Exactly,
it,
we're not.
But there's something in, for example, this leads into the Prism 60th.
It does.
So your Doctor is very much recovering from a regeneration. Mm-hmm. At the end of the Minnesota, is passed out with Cravat stood right in front of him and Fraser Ward holding him up. And we all know it's going to be a multi-Doctor story. The fact that us two are already meeting, it's going to be everyone else involved.
It's a good prequel which sets up the 60th quite nicely.
It's a nice sense of identity because we also wanted to, like you say, we were looking at like the tragic side, the tragedy, you could say, of the Doctor, and certainly after being the blonde Doctor with the losses he felt, it's traumatic for the Doctor, and then to be surrounded by everything he was and everything he will become, is like basically meaning his past and future. I thought that would be really interesting to explore in a post-regeneration format.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not getting too much into what the story is and everything like that, but just as a sense of what to expect from this Doctor, and not to say that they're always without an identity, but just something to see how they will grow.
It's a finding oneself.
Yeah,
that's the way I describe it without really giving too much away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we did film some behind the scenes which you've never shown.
Yeah,
it's me like in a woolly hat, dressed in white shirt, cravat. Waistcoat, the long coat, and then another layer, and then the gloves.
Yeah, because we were filming in Cardiff, and
6 a.m, -5.
We woke up at 6 a.m. It was freezing cold.
Filming for about 7 hours those minisodes, weren't
we I didn't start until 11 o'clock, and we got there at like 7.
Yeah.
So we was all free. We was freezing. We was like coming in and out of. Me and Sutton were coming in and out of Sainsbury's, trying to find things to warm us up and eating pastries while you all just try to get this thing done.
I was a frozen mess after that. Oh, God. I mean, everyone got their chances to jump in and out. I was out all the time. But yeah, it was just a mess.
The amount of clones says it all.
Yeah, but like it's funny because again, for those of you who've watched the minisode, the moment that James Sutton steps off the slab and walks off at the end of minisode 1, in comparison to when we shoot the shot of him walking down going, oh no, that man's fallen over, I better go and save him. That's about 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, there's a big... we spent a good while getting this mastered.
But I did enjoy the filming of it, as much as it was like, I was freezing. Looking at it back now and what we made, I'm proud of what we made. It's nice to make something visual again after so many years.
We definitely set out to accomplish what we needed for this sort of minisode prequel 60th. And we certainly got that. We got what we came for, regardless of all the challenges we had, especially when we was filming towards the latter half of things. When it only
started out originally being me, you, and George in Cardiff. We were just going to get a very small hotel for like a night or two, and then obviously Sutton was like, "I'm making Torchwood, and you're going to Cardiff, and you didn't ask." So then we're like, "Okay."
that conversation,
and that's when the originally it was only meant to be one minisode. It was meant to be one.
Was going to do the regeneration and straight back out?
And was I even meant to be in it?
I don't think he was meant to be in it properly in the initial version.
I might have appeared at the end going, "Come on, we've got work to do," or something like that.
But then you became a more prominent role, and we
because I got to think about it as well.
Towards writing it,
all of these minisodes were written by James Sutton as well. Which, of course, James, if you are listening to this, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But because he wrote his Torchwood minisode, but because we wanted it to be one big event, it had a time with all the others, so he put that all together. When it came to filming it, we made sure all the pieces came together. And then obviously, for those of you, again, who may be interested and enjoyed the minisodes, the 3-part minisode, I will be making a big master cut of it that will come out just before the 60th as a reminder, but almost like an omnibus, like a big previously.
Yeah.
But it's the event in order of which it happened. So like in minisode 3, when Cravat runs out and sees the lightning hit the Rift Tower, instead of showing his reaction and running off across the bridge, it would cut to George flying out.
Yeah.
It would be that specific. It wouldn't just be one after the other. It would be merged. The event would happen in chronological order. And I think that's what's...
I would also like to make a good mention to Connor's excellent directing skills.
Oh, thank you.
This is the first thing I'd filmed live action for like a Doctor Who fan project since I was making really, really bad fan films back in 2017 and 18.
Oh.
I was really nervous coming into it because
that was 10 years before. Exactly. That was 10 years after I'd started doing that.
Yeah. Well, we all start somewhere. But like I was really nervous stepping back into things. I'd done a few audio things, but I've never done anything too long. I've done like a few small roles here and there. This is the first big thing I was doing.
Yeah.
And I was really, really nervous when doing it. Like I was speaking to George and Sutton about this when they were going in and out of the filming. He's like, look, guys, I'm actually quite anxious about this. Like, and when George wrapped up with his parts, and
because I didn't bring a tripod because we turned into a big meetup in the end, like loads of people.
We couldn't get like the logistics.
So I had to stay still as George jumped in and you jumped out, and then only when I looked at the footage back home did I realise the continuity error that you're not wearing the tie.
Yeah. I was wearing an undershirt because I
see George was as well, but the problem is that he'd hidden it. The tie had hidden it. And because you hadn't put them, because we were trying to switch out so quickly and we were freezing, we didn't think about the tie. So then it's only for a split second. When you properly rise up, you are wearing the red tie at that point.
Yeah, we managed. Like again, I'd like to make another mention to sweet Daniel J. Patton for
lovely
doing absolutely incredible VFX. Mr. Chadders was showing me the full finished product recently, and Daniel's done such an amazing job, and like he Dimension of Daleks blew me away, as well as all of Daniel's other recent stuff. He's doing absolutely wonderful things, and I think it's definitely an honour for me to have Dan do this, considering back in the old days when I was actually watching these fan films. I was watching DW 2012. I was watching Fractured Timeline when I was a lot younger, and to have like this happen as well, it's definitely something that has made like an inner child happy. So Dan's done a wonderful job. It's some of his best work as we've come to see in Dimension.
Dan had done a lot of, if not all of the live action visual effects for Waterside, and we wrapped on that in 2019. So it'd been 4 years since he'd done any visual effects work for me. And he was really happy to see that we'd all come together to make something, and so he was more than happy to do it. Obviously, he's a very busy man, and if those who may not know, the reason obviously why he wasn't able to continue the podcast as a host anymore was because he took on a new job at a production house, and he's recently finished that contract. But that thus being able to have the time to do this, but you know what I mean, like he was more than happy to do it, and was able to find some time later on. We weren't. Do you remember when we? Do you remember when we said we'd have this out in May?
Yeah, I'm gonna do you one better here.
Right.
When we planned this out, we said like, let's get this filmed very quickly. Okay, the moment we get back, we're gonna start editing this. We can send it to Dan, and we'll hopefully have this done in March. Then it became May, then it became June, then it became July, August, and here we are at September.
Yeah, no, it was mainly
we're here now, though, which is the main thing.
And to remind those who are frequent listeners of the podcast, I think it was the February, maybe March. I think it might have been March, because I don't know, February or March podcast. I wasn't the main host on it at all, because I was very open about it on the next podcast. I'd suffered a big mental break during that Cardiff meet-up that weekend. Just because I realised I was overloading myself with a lot of different things. So I didn't actually edit it until nearly 2 months until it was the month of our promised release.
Yeah,
I edited another thing.
Second week of March, I think it was.
Before
the visual effects of we did anything. This is just like the
assembly cut.
Yeah.
And then we sent it to Dan for visual effects. Afterwards, we sent it to. Oh, we should also mention as well for the Tortured Minisode. Thank you to Anthony Tremaine for scoring it,
definitely,
and for episodes 2 and 3 or parts 2 and 3 of the Minisode. Thank you to Jed T. Rhodes for doing that. He's basically the main.
It's very good to have both exceptional composers work on this project, because we've worked with both Jed and Anthony, with Anthony Torchwood and Jed with the Blonde Doctor.
Yeah.
So to have them both involved in this project has definitely been a bonus and a treat for this. So it was very good to have them both on there, and they've both done a really, really good job with scoring these minisodes, and has really adding the final touches to something we've worked really hard on and achieved, and it's turned out quite nicely, I'd say.
Yeah. It's just, I'm not going to turn around and claim that this is the best collaboration, because I know that there are so many other collaborators out there. I feel like I'd be devaluing their contributions that they've made to the fan production community. But I am really, really happy with the collaboration we've had. We've had, James Sutton, writing it. He's also been doing behind the scenes, and you even did some behind the scenes when obviously you weren't filming. Same thing with George. Peter M. George, who plays Patrick Chaddy.
PMG was a lifesaver.
Yeah, he plays Patrick Chaddy, my companion, or I'm playing the Cravat Doctor. And he and I worked so closely together on Waterside. He was my first AD, which basically is like your PA. He basically tells the director, yeah, it's great that you want the artistic value, but we don't have time to do it because we can't be burning that money. And he kept me on the straight and narrow because there were times where I'd get too cold, I'd just end up stopping. And he'd be like, no, come on, we have to push through it. Or there'd be times, trying to wrangle us all together from the hype of it,
That particular scene in Minnesota 3 where we're all having a freeway conversation, a lot of us kept stuffing our lines, whether it was me, Sutton, or you. So
I don't
took
claim
a while.
to be an actor.
And PMG was really helpful in helping us get over the line. We had to make a few okay, just make sure we can get as close as we can to it as possible and make it work. Because we were freezing.
It was getting on for about, because we filmed all the things we filmed last were just me.
Yeah.
Because then I could go all of you, apart from PMG, otherwise known as Peter M. George, go into the nearest cafe and get warm because people were starting to freeze and turn. The lips were blue.
I had really bad. Some of you have seen the photos of after the aftermath. I got really bad lip sores after that.
Yeah, which of course, thank you for your sacrifice. I feel bad for that. I know we were all there by choice, but nonetheless, we never thought of it, did we?
Yeah, we wanted to go at a time where it wasn't busy, where the public wouldn't start
You can see towards the end of the final part.
Yeah, we had
lunch began for people.
The boat trip guy as well.
yeah. We were filming right next to the entrance to a boat trip, and every time he would pull up, he'd shout for about 10 minutes. Anyone for a boat ride? Obviously, it's his only income. He explained to us. He actually spoke to us, didn't he?
Yeah.
When because we'd have to stop, and he would say, "Sorry, fellas, are you sure you don't want a boat ride?" And we go, "No," and then we'd ask, all this. We just got chatting to him, and he said that this is the only money he gets coming in. So yeah, of course, no problem. But it was like those little obstacles. Then obviously we did cut this out of the edit. But when you rise up from the regeneration, there's that random man in the background who just laughs really loudly. It just looks like he just watched you regenerating and laughed. Yeah. It was quite funny. So we did a lot of management with the noise as best we could. Obviously, you'll see that in part 1 of the minisode called Solitude, James had to ADR his entire minisode because 7 a.m. wind was quite harsh, and the water tower.
The water tower was really, really picking up.
But we did ADR, and then I basically put together like it was an audio drama. So it all worked out in the end.
And hat clutch.
Yeah, I'm really, really happy with how it all come out. I'm looking forward to what we do in the future as well. And obviously, it's only a couple of months now. By the time this comes out, it'll be September.
Yeah,
it's only 2 months to the 60th.
It's like we're now in single digits of weeks now.
Yeah, I think even right now it's 10 weeks.
Yeah, bloody hell!
As of the 20th, yeah,
oh my God.
We're on double digits now.
We're closer than we think we are. And, we've got a really good lineup leading into 60th, which I think is good. And these Minnesota's definitely complement that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, in that case, thank you very much, Matt, for being available to record the podcast.
Honor. Thank you very much.
Oh no, of course, and
So, coming up in TT, we have Metal Doctor episode 2 called Firestarter. And then for the next 2 weeks after that, we have 2 short stories. One called What She Thought While Falling, which was written by Chris Chibnall and performed by moi. And the second one is a short story that myself and Connor wrote, which is called After Trenzalore, which is Jenny basically being scared of Whispermen. And I'll say this though, the Whispermen thing. So I open up that episode with the Whispermen poem, and I put out on Twitter and things asking for volunteers, and I got about 15 people. So Thank you to everyone who volunteered. I have messaged people if I was unable to use their stuff, but I'm hoping to do something like this again at some point, so I'll probably need more Whispermen type things.
I do like the concept of After Trenzalore though, because when you told me about it and you had a writer's block, I was like, well, I know what it's about. Without getting too much into it, it's Jenny's internal monologue and feelings on, well, essentially dying.
Well, the thing is as well, the stuff in TT, the Paternoster stuff coming out next year for TT, we've done a massive time jump because all the stuff we'd done previous was before Good Man Goes to War, and the stuff coming out next year is basically after everything we saw on screen.
Oh, that's like a 10-year time gap then.
Yeah. So it's after Deep Breath, everything that's coming. So I wanted to do something, a repercussion of the whole Jenny with the Whispermen, because she did die. She died. She had that moment of death. So I felt like it was a good place to kind of get everybody in the mindset that Jenny's in when the series comes back. You know, because we don't torture that girl enough. It's okay because I play her, so I'm just torturing myself. Yeah, and then it goes on to Halloween stuff, but we won't be covering that this podcast. That will be the next one.
Yes.
What do you have on Overton?
We mainly have Inquisition of a Time Lord, which is
Peter Adams. Excited for that.
Yeah, Peter Adams returning as the young Doctor 2 years after he left and regenerated. The first half of the series also stars the late Harry Gosling as well, who recorded his lines 6 months ago. Yeah, that one's a bit like sort of solemn when it comes out. Obviously, but that also features the return of like Joanna Baker as Hazel Anderson. A lot of recurring characters. Basically, a celebration of that young Doctor's era, because Pete has fully, or now that he's recorded everything, he's now just fully retired from ever reprising the role.
Yeah.
It was just something that he always said he wanted to make, but never got the chance to. In between that, we have an episode of Divergence, and then at the end of the next podcast, when we talk about this, I'll have a long list because that's when 60th stuff kicks off. And
yeah,
I was stuck in October and November releases for a very long time. I get all those done. Yeah.
So yes, that is this month's podcast done and dusted. Thank you for joining us, Jimmy.
That's quite all right. It was a pleasure.
So
I look forward to listening to it.
Organised chaos. We love it. We love a bit of organised chaos. Yeah. Till next month, Connor.
Till next month, Abatha.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.